Today's topic, digital transformation through smarter contracting and procurement. And this is the Vodafone story. For background, my name is Mark Wojtek. I'm the Chief Customer Officer of Sirian Labs. We offer a smarter contracting platform, which lets customers create, manage, and measure contracts. We have as my special guest, a business colleague, my customer, and my friend Reinhard from Vodafone. Reinhard, if you can do a quick introduction, we'll jump into the presentation.
Sure, thank you, Mark. Just for all, I'm Reinhard Plassabart. I'm heading digital supply chain and operations for Vodafone, probably in the industry already for around 20 years, in different roles, both commercials, but also quite lately focusing on driving digitization across our business.
Great, thank you. And what we'll do is in the next 20 minutes or so, we'll go through some slides. What we'd like is there's a Q&A section as part of the platform that we're using today. Feel free to ask questions. We may not be able to get to them here. We've got about 20 to 25 minutes. What we'll do is actually follow up either within the chat or follow up after the fact. With that, Vodafone overview. Reinhard, can you start by sharing a little bit more about Vodafone for the benefit of the audience?
Yeah, for sure. I will keep it super short because I think many of you would know Vodafone through the services that we provide, but we're a company that has grown quite significantly, in particular through merger and acquisition, which has also shaped quite a lot about how we operate in the transformation that we've undergone, right? Really driving heavy standardization and centralization over the past years. Also, we've seen a significant change in the product portfolio. We come from being a mobile company to be a technology communications company that delivers mobile, fixed TV, and more IoT products and services. So quite a significant change in transformation, and we continue that journey over the years. Maybe stopping just for a second here, because obviously all this change in transformation as we've been growing and evolving over the years has had a significant impact on our supply chain. Our supply chain, as mentioned, has been going through a heavy standardization, centralization. Over the past years, we've been focusing on establishing an operating model that anchors on three main pillars, which are our central procurement company, which is our center of excellence to drive procurement and digitalization across the board. Second is our local market teams, really engaging and partnering with the business to funnel demand into the center. And then finally, our backbone, our strong backbone with our colleagues in our captive shared service center, predominantly in India, who are helping us to really drive speed and agility into our operations. To give you a bit of a perspective, yes, we operate across 21 different markets. We also have partner networks across the board, which then really helps us to pool volumes. We're managing approximately 25 billion of spend across multiple different categories that go from establishing our towers, masts, network equipment, buying customer systems, right? End-user devices that many of you would have with yourselves, and then also all corporate elements that help our business to run, from content, from marketing services and the like. So quite a lot in a very varied spectrum of activity that we manage from the supply chain organization, which has been helping us to really get the grip and ensure that we drive consistency as an organization.
No, that's great. Can you talk a little bit about your role and maybe some of your top priorities, the things that are important to you so the audience can benefit from how do we take kind of the big Vodafone organization and really look at some of the things that you're looking to accomplish in your group?
Yeah, this is a very good point, Mark, in terms of priorities, what we look at, and in particular in my role as an enabler to the business. And if you look into the spectrum of things that we sell and the spectrum of things that we buy, is really making sure that we have agile and fast processes that ensure that we can connect things and support the business to deliver value quickly. It will be one of the pieces. Second, clearly to drive value through driving operational excellence in the way we work, ensuring that we don't have value leakage in any of our operations. And then third, naturally, is really enabling this through outstanding digital solutions that really support that backbone, that make us operate in a very lean and agile manner so that everyone can really achieve the best for the organization. So really driving digital transformation into the organization.
So how does contract management fit into this? I understand there's different starting points. Some of them could be the financial benefits. You alluded to value leakage. Others could be regulatory or compliance. There could be operational efficiencies. Clearly it's probably all of the above. But how does contract management fit into the work that you folks are doing at the heart of your business?
Yeah, so if you look into contract management, I think it's always in the crossroad, right? So it's really covering all the aspects of how your business or your enterprise is running. What you will see is in many companies, right? You have a clear view around how you run procurement, right? How you get in depth to manage supply risks, to understand and drive compliance to contracts, to really adhere to regulatory requirements that are lately changing quite frequently. So having a good grip on this is crucial, and having also the right digitization strategy so that you can really react fast, right? And ideally preempt the changes. But where I think is the most interesting part is when you look into your procurement aspect and how you're also selling, how you're driving customer behavior, and how you're really ensuring that you're committing to deliver to your customer, and overlay this with how you drive your procurement activity through the main mechanism that is contracts, is quite an important aspect, so that you can really cover, right, end to end what you're promising to your end consumers and customers, and ensuring that along the whole chain you really mirror that with your suppliers. If you really achieve that connection, that's the connection that we would like to achieve within Vodafone, I think you're talking about a completely different ballpark, of a completely different game, right? Really making sure that from procurement activity, you can really relate to actual delivery to your end customer. So that's what is quite exciting about contract management, really building that story and building that capability that allows you to really correlate to customer delivery. Needless to say, it's a very complex topic. If we look into our landscape, we have over 10,000 suppliers. We have more than 54,000 contracts in our landscape with our suppliers. Mirror that on the customer side, which is much more fragmented. How do you create that connection and have that clear oversight? That's only something that you can achieve via technology, and really making this or enabling this through technology is really one of the big priorities that we're driving within the supply chain organization in Vodafone.
No, I think it's clear why organizations need to focus on contract management. Obviously, Cerion's the technology platform. We break it down. This slide's kind of a good example, but we talk about buy side, sell side. But it's also about end-to-end contract lifecycle management, powered by artificial intelligence to help companies drive value. So, I know that we've done a lot of that work with you. We've got obviously other companies that are working with us as we look to strive to do even better. So, why did you embark on the contract management journey? What were the opportunities maybe that led to some of the transformational benefits, I guess?
Yeah, I think I always like to relate to what we see in the market, because we talk to a lot of companies and there are different starting points, which you've nicely also depicted on the slides that you have here. First, I would say, we need to define what contract management is for you. For us, what it really meant is, as we drove a significant centralization, we were working on huge contracts that we had to manage end to end. Therefore, securing that there was no value leakage throughout the life cycle of the contract was really paramount. So we started from what you could say is the end. Once you have a contract, really drive adherence and drive performance to that contract, which has been quite successful and has delivered significant value in the range of hundreds of millions back to Vodafone. And what you see in particular in that front is the degree of connection and collaboration this drives within the business. Suddenly the contract becomes this front and center of all the relationships we have with your suppliers. It's not just a procurement piece. It is engaging with your compliance teams. It's driving performance with your actual business, and really getting everyone around one single and common perspective around how contracts operate. But other organizations, and likewise Vodafone, have also defined contract management much broader. There's what we will call this pre-signature part, or what you need to do to really come to that contract. So what we found important for us is to start growing from managing the contracts in life to then really work backwards to drive efficiency in terms of how we store and create contracts, how much do we drive standardization in our contracts so that we as a business also become simpler to work with, and how do we really build already early on when we're authoring contracts the right mechanism so that we can, on a very seamless manner, really monitor performance when the contract is live. So we work backwards from post-signature to really the authoring, and then one step further is really building the whole repository of the contracts into one single repository, which in many instances, if you talk to different companies, would be a very sterile archive of contracts, right? Even if it's digital. But I think here the key differentiator for us is to be able to have a repository that is intelligent enough, right, to give you the right insights around contracts. Again, stressing here out the significant changes that happen in regulations, and really being able to query all your contracts and understand where do you have risk and where you need to action is quite crucial for us. So really having search capabilities and intelligent analytics that give you the perspectives that you need to focus on.
No, that's great. I mean, some companies start at different points in the journey. That they all have similar challenges, and we sometimes refer to this, and you and I have talked about this, Reinhard, you know, the crawlers, the walkers, and the runners, and obviously not all of them are created equal. Again, they start at different points in time, but they might solve a narrow part of the problem, or it might be across the entire enterprise. Things like authoring or enterprise contract lifecycle management are pretty important to what companies are looking at as they go through this journey. So you know, it's an interesting transformation that we're seeing in the marketplace.
Yeah, and Mark, I think one point to highlight here, right, is the benefits that you get are different depending on where you start. If you look at building a central repository, visibility, transparency, probably speed to reaction and action. When you talk about contract authoring, it's around efficiency, standardization, speed to finish contracts, right? And when you talk in the last part, right, which is post-signature governance, is really around value creation and protection, right? How do you really make sure that what you wanted to have is actually being delivered? So different facets, and you need to put value to them based on where your business stands.
So you know, this slide, obviously future-proofing procurement, there are a ton of untapped opportunities in the contracting environment. You know, the ability for procurement processes to address those with data intelligence. You know, I know that you folks at Vodafone conceived the CCM program. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think how this all came about. You know? So we went through a journey of centralization. We pulled quite a lot of volumes and spent through our procurement company. And at some point in time, there was a natural question, right? So if we're making such big deals, well, how certain are we that we are not losing any value on those contracts? It's a very difficult question to answer. If you think about it being a global organization where pretty much around a global contract, you can have hundreds of people involved. Right? So really ensuring that we had and set the right north, right? Defining what would that vision be, right? And how would we measure success? We list here a number of elements. Is really ensuring that we have visibility, but then also mitigate value leakage, that we understand risks. Again, all of us spend a lot of time building clauses in the contract, which then, unless they're being actively managed, can become quite sterile. Good examples are around performance. When you think about, you start a contract with a view around how you want to run performance, but then over the years of the life cycle of the contract, things will change, and the way you want to look at the performance will change. So really keeping a grip on that, on how you manage that performance with that relationship is important. So those were the elements we looked at, and really having performance metrics that would enable us to address this ambition and framework was instrumental.
So leveraging the power of machine learning, artificial intelligence, additional technologies, obviously a critical part of CCM. Can you describe a little bit about your approach to do the technology evaluation process? And of course, why Cerion, one of your CLM partners, understanding there's a bunch of other partners in your network?
Yeah, I think first we started with a very clear vision to what we wanted to achieve, right? And that was have a very clearly established way of managing our contracts in life globally. And we defined what that meant, right? What that meant from really handing over the contract into the business, managing performance, managing risks, managing disputes, right? And even introducing policies to our business. So that's what I would call was our main framework. That framework was critical to then really engage into the market, engage with the market and understand what were the solutions that were out there that would serve that purpose. Not surprisingly, most of the solutions that we found at the beginning of our journey were mainly focusing on archiving and some basic intelligence around contract databases. There was very little around managing end-to-end supplier relationships through platforms and systems. So we ran obviously a tender, looked into the market, and came across yourselves at the time, a very early start, where I do think we shared the vision. We shared the vision about what was commercial contract management, and it matched quite nicely with our approach. So we found in Cerion a very good interlock in terms of vision, also knowledge from the team, so quite a capable team. But then also from a platform perspective, it really mirrored to a big extent all the different features and functionalities that we wanted to have. So from a user journey perspective, was a very nice match to our expectations. So, but I think key for anyone embarking on such a journey is really to make sure that you have a clear vision about what you want, and then you can compare versus what is available in the market. Now, over the years, there's been quite significant set of capabilities. So we bought also into a roadmap of Cerion at the time, right, around new capabilities that would come, that would give us the insights, the analytics. And I think we've learned over the years and capabilities that are now giving us really significant value, right, and speed when it comes to really understanding our contract landscape, understanding risks through the different elements that you've applied in artificial intelligence, really to really scan our contracts and understand where are potential risks and the like. So,
no, I agree. I mean, I think it's about accountability on both sides. I mean, clearly Vodafone and your group was ahead of the industry, still is. You've got a strategic vision for CLM. One of Cerion's earliest customers, played a big part in our product's evolution. And we do that, right? We do that every day, from a transparency, communication. We dialogue about our objectives, what we're trying to accomplish. And then Vodafone and your group, you've got a unique org structure. In Fortune 500, typically procurement is an organization, it's a department. At Vodafone, it's a separate entity. So can you talk a little bit about maybe the journey that you've been on? Maybe a couple minutes on this in the 4 minutes you've got left.
As I go through this, I will answer some of the questions that are popping up on the chat. Good. Around standardization of contracts versus local requirements, and also some of the learnings on the journey. So first, we started with a blueprint, right? We ran our blueprint in a very small scale, to some degree manually to start, right? To really prove that the model was working and identify value. That's, you don't have a business case to build upon. When we selected Cerion, we focused on the end of the process, because that's where you have the biggest value. You can drive efficiencies up front, right? But that's only on the procurement teams, right, that are involved in the process. The big value is really on what you buy and how you make sure that you're not leaking any value. So that's why we focus on that front. Some of the learnings during that process were really around how deep do you go to start with, right? And our learning with Syrian was when we started taking our top 100 suppliers, big, huge contracts, but we also went very deep into each contract. So we asked through Syrian, we managed to extract relevant clauses, obligations, which ranged in the hundreds. That is a lot. And that is a lot in the sense of it requires multiple stakeholders involved. So really narrowing this down to start with, I think is probably one thing that I would have done different from a change perspective, really to introduce that. We launched our approach in a way that we said we go across the board. So we launched the solution globally, but we went modular, right? And where we started was really on driving performance in compliance with contractual obligations. And then we started moving back through the process down to the point where we started moving into really driving more efficient operations through digitization of authoring. And nowadays, going the step beyond, which is we've done this on the procurement side. Our sales team has started doing exactly and mirrored exactly the same on the sales side. And as we're reaching a similar degree of maturity, we're really now working on overlaying what we believe is going to be the future, which is really to create that crossover and understand how we're connecting sales contracts with buy contracts, right? And where do we have the gaps that need to be addressed? I think that's a big change for us. Beyond that, for us, a big priority is really around driving to what degree can you drive contracts to be more autonomously negotiated. And I know this sounds a little bit sort of bizarre and extreme, but if you think about it, there are many clauses that you can already predefine, right? And you see this in the consumer industry, right? You predefine risks. In insurance, when you sign something up, you can do this even via a chatbot nowadays. But again, it's all algorithms that need to be defined. And with the challenge here, though, that we need to bring our business to really be able to quantify the risk and qualify it and put a value behind it. I think that's the next frontier.
Yeah, let me wrap this up. I do have the best practices and lessons learned. I'll let the audience kind of review those. We're 1 minute over time. Would like to thank Reinhard, you, again, as my business colleague, my customer and friend. DPW, would like to thank them, and most importantly, would like to thank the audience. So thank you for everyone listening to the story, the Vodafone story. If you do have questions, we'll look to get back to you. If you'd like to reach out to either of us, obviously you've got the capabilities to do that. So appreciate everyone's time, and everyone have a great day, have a great conference. Talk to you soon.